Hello, 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 hello. Remember Dave Scalish used to say, test for level, test for level, test for level, test for level. All right, here is your Tuesday poll question at Smerconish.com. Should the U.S. government provide financial stipends to undocumented immigrants who volunteer to self-deport? First, let me thank my friends at Play Gun Lake. Detroit baseball is back, and the Pro Golf Tour and Pro Basketball hoops and hockey playoffs. Holy smokes. You can live bet on all of the above with the completely redesigned and ultra sleek Play Gun Lake online casino and sportsbook app. But whether Detroit baseball wins or not, there's always another way to win on the Play Gun Lake sportsbook and online app. Hot online slots have been added. The Big Easy, Panda Queen, Rake and Bacon Odyssey, Medusa's Golden Gaze, Space Invaders Roulette. They're always adding new games, which is fun. The only sports betting and online casino that I ever use and recommend in the great state of Michigan. I'd like to get to Mackinac Island this summer. That would be fun. Play blackjack, roulette, poker, craps, and hot online slots. You've got great online options based on your favorite streamers: Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, The Squid Game, and new users right now get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down to the first 24 hours. That's got to be wagered. You must be 21 and in Michigan for the Play Gun Lake online casino and sportsbook app. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Okay, right at the outset today, I think I get two I told you so's. And I'm taking them because I make a lot of predictions that don't turn out. So when they turn out, I feel I need to lay claim to them. This is kind of funny. Yesterday, relevant to the poll question, I said, well, I took a look when 37 had voted. And when 37 had voted, it was being decided by a whisker. I wonder where we will be at 37,000. And then I must confess that as soon as I said that yesterday, I said to myself, ooh, I don't know. Some days we get 33,000. Some days we get 35,000. Some days we get 42,000. I've kind of laid out a marker there at 37,000. So I was elated when yesterday's vote total was 37,595. Okay, there was that. On the outcome of the poll question, I can't lay claim to this. Will President Trump's ambivalence about upholding the Constitution cause any erosion of his support among Republicans? The correct answer was no, 63.14%. I was surprised that like a full third took the other side and said, yeah, this time it's really going to matter. This time it's really going to matter. I said something else yesterday for which I am also claiming credit or a little bit of prescience. I said, I have been to Alcatraz. Alcatraz is a tourist attraction. If you get to San Francisco, I recommend you take the boat and you go over to Alcatraz. But I said on air yesterday, it would be a Herculean task. It would be a Herculean task to open Alcatraz because Alcatraz doesn't even have running water. And lo and behold, there are any number of stories. We had one from the Mercury News, but there are any number of stories that are now being written and saying exactly that. From the New York Times. This is funny because I think this is good reporting. They went to Alcatraz and they asked the tourists, what do you think of opening this place up for migrants and violent criminals? Quote, the morning tour groups were full of international travelers, and many of them had received phone alerts about Trump's plan or read news reports over breakfast. Some wondered if they might actually be among the last visitors allowed to wander the island. But nobody seemed to think the idea was nearly as brilliant as Trump thought it was. I thought it was a joke, said Philip Newman, visiting from Germany. It's a ruin, more or less. A ruin, yes, with some buildings deteriorating so badly that they no longer have roofs or complete walls. The cells have broken toilets, if they have any at all, with no running water and no sewage system. The exterior walls of the cell blocks are so weak that they are reinforced with netting to prevent chunks of concrete from crumbling onto tourists' heads. Bird deposits coat much of the island. All supplies from food to fuel must be brought in by boat. Alcatraz has practically frozen in time. Since the day that the storied prison saw its last inmate 62 years ago, when the federal government closed the facility, officials deemed it a deteriorated relic that was insufficient for housing inmates. Ah, so you're thinking, yeah, Trump really blew it. when he suggested Alcatraz. Oh, no, no, au contraire. It worked. It absolutely worked. He won the news cycle. I see a headline in front of me right now from Semaphore. Republicans like Trump's Alcatraz idea. I mean, the short version of what just transpired is he went on Meet the Press. He said something that was absolutely indefensible relative to the Constitution. He got hammered in the news cycle on Sunday and into Monday. And so what did he do? He threw a shiny object into the mix. That shiny object was Alcatraz. And guess what we're not talking about? Due process and the Constitution. And let's be honest, which of those two is more interesting? You're not going to like this when I say it, but it's true. It's political genius. It is political genius on Trump's part, the way in which he is so easily able to divert people's attention. He took an oath. He took a 35-word oath. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. But then he went on Meet the Press. They taped it last Friday at Mar-a-Lago, Kristen Welker. They aired it on Sunday. He would not acknowledge that the Fifth Amendment applies to all persons when asked. I have the text of the Fifth Amendment right in front of me. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising, yada, yada, yada. No person is the key part of the Fifth Amendment. There was a legal scholar Denise Gilman at the University of Texas School of Law, quoted in one of the stories that I read as saying that the framers intended for the country to uphold basic fundamental values of freedom within its borders rather than for specific people, because it protects everyone in the country from a tyrannical government. In other words, it was very deliberate that there would be certain rights that would attach to everyone, regardless of whether they are citizens, and the Fifth Amendment is expressly one of them. So what Trump said to Kristen Welker was indefensible. And, to people who are like dialed in on these things, which is not all Americans, I'm trying to be kind here, it was a very big deal. It was a very big story. He's like flat out saying, I'm not going to honor the Constitution. That's unbelievable. And so it got a lot of traction and became the news story. And what did he do? Shazam! Alcatraz. On Truth Social, he releases a statement that says, all caps, rebuild and open Alcatraz. For far too long, America has been plagued by vicious, violent, and repeat criminal offenders. Let me stop right there. Do you want to be on the side of the eggheads like me who are arguing about due process? What about the Fifth Amendment? Due process? Or do you want to be on the side of the vicious, violent, and repeat criminal offenders? The dregs of society, he said, who will never contribute anything other than misery and suffering. When we were a more serious nation in times past, we did not hesitate to lock up the most dangerous criminals and keep them far away from anyone they could harm. That's the way it's supposed to be. No longer will we tolerate these serial offenders who spread filth, bloodshed, and mayhem. Do you want to be on the side of those who spread filth, bloodshed, and mayhem? I don't think so. And who are the people who are on the side of those who are spreading filth and bloodshed and mayhem? They're the eggheads who are talking about things like, oh, due process. I'm just saying, in a world where it's Trump again, it's just Trump again talking about all those stories that everybody can that's right. Those plastic straws, they or the paper ones, they suck. Right? He's identified another one because we've all seen the Clint Eastwood movie Alcatraz, and Trump is saying, let's take the dregs of society and throw away the key and put them in Alcatraz. And who could be against that? Only somebody like me who's been there and knows how impractical it is. So that's what Trump was able to pull off. And it worked again because due process is off the front pages of the newspapers. And I'm looking at a computer screen in front of me where I'm looking at NBC News, the Washington Post, CNN, and the New York Times. all talking about this. By the way, many of them critically. Um, for example, the NBC headline, Trump's call to reopen Alcatraz as a prison could be stymied by roadblocks. Don't worry. The people that he's reaching, they're never going to read the story. They're never going to read that story, but they're going to have heard that Trump wants to reopen Alcatraz for the dregs of society. He wins the cycle. It is pure theater. It'll never happen, but you can add it to that litany of other issues that I bring up from time to time where I say he's on to something. He's got a Seinfeld-like ability to touch issues that are great water cooler conversation. A water cooler is something that people had at the office back when they went to the office to work alongside one another. Okay, now that's yesterday, and it brings me to today. This might not be pure theater, but I think he's on to something again. I think he's on to something again. The poll question today at Smerconish.com. Should the U.S. government provide financial stipends to undocumented immigrants who volunteer to self-deport? And the idea here is pretty straightforward and simple. Instead of paying 17 grand, action in the polling at Smerconish.com on this. By the way, I logically it makes sense. I think logically it makes sense. If we truly wish to reduce the size of the migrant population who are here and did not play by the rules, it just makes practical sense that instead of going through the whole paces and expensive process, we'll write you a check and send you on your way. I believe nonetheless, and we'll see how this plays out. I promise you I've not peaked today, so I don't know, but I'm going to peak soon. I suspect that, people will say, well, if it's Trump's idea, we have such a built-in anti-Trump bias now that if Trump told you it was 12 o'clock and it were noon, many would say, well, I can't agree with that. I can't agree with that. So I suspect it'll be another, 60-30 against it because it's Trump's idea, but it's pretty interesting, right? The story. The Trump administration said yesterday it's offering a $1,000 stipend to undocumented immigrants who self-deport to their home countries using U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the app. There's something really interesting about this story. The story goes on to then say they billed it as a historic opportunity. It's a dignified way to leave the U.S. Then they go into the data that I've already shared with you. $17,121 is the average cost that it takes to deport somebody. The agency says that even the cost of a self-deportation would decrease the costs overall by 70%. So in the statement released by Kristi Noem, I want to read just two short paragraphs. Quote, the agency, I'm sorry, this was actually from the news account. This is actually from the news account of it. I have the Kristi Noem statement in front of me. DHS announces historic travel assistance. This is the part. The agency said in their statement that migrants who voluntarily self-deport through CBP will be deprioritized for detention and removal ahead of their departure, as long as they demonstrate they are making meaningful strides in completing that departure. The agency also said that migrants who participate may also be able to re-enter the United States legally in the future, but did not specify how. At the White House on Monday, Trump also said those who self-deported would be given a path to coming back to the country, but did not detail what the pathway would look like. Question: if you were in the unfortunate position of being in this country illegally, and now you see the dynamics and you see how they have ratcheted up all of the deportation, and you look at those airplanes that have flown to El Salvador and that horrific prison, right, where everybody's tatted up and naked from the waist up. You know what I'm talking about. Kristi Noem did a photo op there. But if you were here, if you're the line cook in Jersey City, if you're the short order cook in Jersey City, you came here illegally, but you're a hard worker, and you're notwithstanding coming here illegally, you're a good soul. Now you've got a family, perhaps. You're paying taxes. You don't want to leave. You love this country. You're law abiding, but for that original sin. Now you're scared. What do? Do you take the word of the Trump administration that they will if you come forward on the app, because that's how they want you to do it, the CBP home app, they want you to identify on that app, and they say they will deprioritize your detention and removal. And Trump says that, there'll be a path. He's not telling you what it is to coming back into the country. This is a very real issue for many, many people. Would you take their word for it, or would you continue to live in the shadows? I think given his track record for veracity, said differently, how often he's been dishonest, you'd probably stay in the shadows. You'd probably stay in the shadows. One other thing that occurs to me about this, and then I'll let you go vote and participate. $1,000. I mean, $1,000 is a lot of money for some people. Might it be an incentive to leave and then come back? Hey, I'll take the $1,000. I'll take the plane ticket. I'll visit, my mother in wherever, and then I'll come back having $1,000 in my pocket. You could say it's cost effective. You could say, hey, this is a more humane way of doing it. It's a more humane. It offers a compassionate option that respects, one's individual agency. Or on the other hand, are you going to attract more undocumented immigrants hoping to benefit from the stipend? It's a great poll question, if I must say so myself. Should the U.S. government provide financial stipends to undocumented immigrants who volunteer to self-deport? Go vote at Smerconish.com. Go vote at Smerconish.com right now. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Thank you so much. We passed 60,000 in terms of our subscribers for our YouTube channel. If you're watching right now and you're not a subscriber, please become one and set yourself up for notifications so that all times I am here, you're going to get notified that I've got something to say. Okay. Thank you, gang. Appreciate you.